Hey everyone, this is Ludwig Kietzmann. I'm here with Richard Mitchell today, and we are looking at Neverending Nightmares, which is a new independent horror game.
Yes, trying very hard not to look at it too closely because it's pretty scary.
So the developer of this game is Matt Gilgenbach. He previously did Retrograde, which was a shooter game in reverse. What is he bringing of himself to this game?
It's kind of interesting because Retrograde actually didn't do very well, and that sort of contributes to sort of the inspiration behind this game. Matt Gilgenbach suffers from some mental illness, including obsessive compulsive disorder and depression, and some of that is making its way into this game because he decided that that sort of lends itself pretty well to horror, some of the things that you experience when you have these kinds of illnesses.
One of the things that's very striking to me personally is the art style. What are some of the inspirations of that, and do you think that it undermines the horror because it's not a realistic art style?
Anyone who's familiar with his work will probably recognize it, but it was inspired by Edward Gorey, who is an artist who did some children's books that have very macabre themes, and they have this sort of black and white pencil sketch / woodcut kind of look to them. That's sort of where the inspiration comes from, and I don't know if it undermines the horror, because I think it's kind of strange, but in some ways it kind of accentuates it, because you have black and white except when there's red, except when there's blood on the screen, and I think that makes the appearance of blood more effective. It seems more jarring against this black and white background. And plus, the other thing is, even though the background itself is kind of inoffensive and kind of plain, I think that makes the horrific elements when they come out sort of stand out even more.
What kind of horror game are we talking about here? Is it very exploration driven? Is there a lot of combat? How am I moving through the world, and what am I doing in it?
It works sort of like a streamlined adventure game. Well, in terms of what sort of horror game it is, it's not like a Resident Evil game at all. Matt Gilgenbach told me that, he didn't want a character, where you're going through the world as this guy with muscles on top of muscles and like super guns. So it's much more a game sort of like Amnesia, where there is no combat, or at least that's sort of what they're shooting for, and a lot of the fear comes from the environment itself. It also borrows themes from Silent Hill 2 in terms of psychology. Psychological horror. You have these monsters that are thematic in their design and things like that. I can definitely feel the amnesia in it, just because you do feel defenseless. I mean, you're just this guy walking around in his pajamas.
So just to lighten the mood a little bit, I wanted to ask you about the self-mutilation scenes in the game, which, despite the simple art style, still seem really horrific and feel very disturbing.
They almost feel more horrific because of the art style, and this actually comes from the inspiration for the game, which is Matt Gilgenbach's struggle with mental illness, depression, and OCD. There's a concept called intrusive thoughts, where you could be out having a good time with your friends, and all of a sudden this thought will appear in your mind, and you just can't get rid of it. It's just in there. And he actually had a thought about one of the things you'll see in this trailer, which is jamming something sharp in your arm and using it as a fulcrum to peel out one of the two bones in your forearm, which he even told me he doesn't know if that's physiologically possible, but it's just a thought that he had in his head, and it sort of lends itself to horror, and so he put that in the game. So it's not so much that it's a game about mental illness, but he's taking these things that he has to deal with that have horrific elements and make sense in the context of a horror game, and putting them in there. And it is pretty, it's weird because it's a very simple style, but it seems like more graphic because of that. And he said he's hoping it won't make anybody sick because of the way that the style is depicted, but I mean, I don't know. I thought it was actually very, very jarring.
Well, if you're looking to play horror games, presumably it is with the goal of making yourself feel uncomfortable. When is this game coming out? When will I have the opportunity to make myself feel icky?
Well, they're shooting for late 2014. The platform has not been decided yet. The demo I played was on PC, but it could be released on any platform at this point. And they are planning to launch a Kickstarter for it pretty soon. And he actually told me that the demo I played might actually be available for people who want to think about backing the Kickstarter. So I'm excited to be terrified.
I always feel extra vulnerable in my pajamas.